What kind of life must a woman have lived for her wedding dress to be stained with blood instead of joy? Emma Hartwell collapsed face first outside the Timber Creek trading post, the frozen ground biting into her skin. Snow dusted her torn wedding dress. Blood ran from her broken nose. Her right eye was swollen shut. She looked like someone who had crawled out of a nightmare. 4 days married. 4 days of hell. Marcus Thorne, the man she had traveled across half the country to wed, had beaten her until she couldn't see straight. Then he dragged her to the wagon line at Fort Bridger and threw her onto the freight wagon like trash. She had left Pennsylvania with hope. She arrived in Wyoming with nothing but bruises and pain. The wagon master, an older man named Calhoun, helped her down with surprising gentleness. The wind cut through them like knives, carrying winter's warning. "You sure you want to stop here, miss?" Calhoun asked quietly. "Oregon's still ahead. I can take you there, no charge." Emma's split lips shook. "I have nowhere else to go." A crowd formed. Trappers, traders, prospectors, men who lived on the edge of law and luck. Some stared with pity, others with hunger. A woman alone in a torn wedding dress was either prey or property in a place like this. Then a voice slid through the crowd. "Well now," a smooth-talking man said, stepping forward. "Looks like someone had herself a rough journey." He was dressed too fine for frontier life, his hair slicked back, his smile sharp. Garrett Ashford. He tipped his fancy beaver hat toward her. "I run the Grizzly Den Saloon," he said. "You look like you could use a friend." Emma stepped back, hitting the wagon. She knew that look. She'd seen it on Marcus right before the first blow. The crowd parted again as another man stepped forward. "The lady's not interested," the man said. Emma saw him. Silas Brennan. Tall, lean, and carved from mountain life. Buckskin clothes worn from years of use. A scarf pulled against the freezing air. A Hawken rifle rested in his hands. His eyes were a cold winter blue that missed nothing. Garrett's smile dropped. "Don't remember asking you, Brennan." Quote, "Don't remember needing permission to speak," Silas answered calmly. Now he looked at Emma fully, not at her dress, not at her bruises, at her. And for the first time in days, she saw no cruelty in a man's eyes. Garrett tried again. "The lady might be looking for employment. I pay well for the right kind of work." Silas cut him off. "The lady's coming with me." Silas said it so simply, like it was already settled. Not a demand, not ownership, just a promise. He looked at Emma. "Unless you want to go with him, it's your choice." Her chest tightened. Her ribs screamed when she tried to stand straight, but her voice held steady. "I'll take the cabin work, Mr. Brennan." "Silas," he corrected softly. "Silas Brennan." Garrett's hand drifted toward his pearl-handled pistol. "And who made you her keeper?" "No one," Silas said. "But I've got a cabin that needs tending, and she needs a safe place. That's enough." Emma felt the crowd shift. Men watched, waiting for trouble. Finally, Garrett laughed, but there was nothing warm in it. "Fine. Take your stray, Brennan. Winter's coming. Hope she's worth the trouble." He walked off, his men behind him. Silas turned to Calhoun. "She have any belongings?" Calhoun shook his head. "Came with nothing but that dress." Silas nodded, jaw tightening. He looked at Emma. "Can you walk?" She tried, but her legs buckled. Silas offered his arm. Not grabbing, not forcing, just offering. Emma took it. They crossed the snowy ground to Henderson's supply post. People stared, whispering behind their hands. Mail-order bride, Marcus Thorne's woman. Trouble. Silas ignored them all. Inside the warm trading post, Henderson took one look at Emma and swore under his breath. His wife Margaret came rushing from the back room, her eyes wide with shock and anger. "Come with me, dear," Margaret said. "We'll get you fixed up." In the small back room lined with fabric and clothes, Margaret eased Emma out of the destroyed wedding dress. Bruises spread across Emma's body like cruel fingerprints. Margaret's eyes filled with tears. "That monster," she whispered. "You're not the first girl he hurt. But you're the first to escape him long enough to get away." Emma's voice cracked. "There were others?" Margaret nodded. "3 that I know of. 1 didn't survive. Another vanished. The third, well, no one's seen her since." Emma's heart twisted. She wasn't alone in her suffering. Margaret dressed her in a warm blue wool dress, soft stockings, and sturdy boots. She packed a bonnet, soap, underthings, and small necessities into a bundle. "Silas Brennan can afford it," Margaret said firmly when Emma tried to protest. "And he's a good man. You'll be safe in his cabin." Emma didn't know what safety was supposed to feel like, but Silas felt close to it. When she stepped out, Silas studied her quietly. "Better." Outside, they mounted the mules and left Timber Creek behind. Snow fell in slow drifting sheets. The cold pressed against Emma's bones, but she held tight to the saddle. Silas glanced at her. "My cabin's small. 1 room for me and a lean-to you can have to yourself. I can't pay much, but you'll have food, privacy, safety." Safety. The word felt strange on her tongue. "Thank you," she whispered. They rode deeper into the pines. The world grew quiet, the air colder, the shadows longer. Emma shivered, not from fear of the mountains, but from the feeling that her life had just taken a turn she could never undo, for better or worse, and she had no idea which. Emma woke the next morning feeling every bruise in her body, but the small room around her felt warm and safe. Light peeked through the window. The smell of coffee drifted from the main room. She dressed slowly, pinning her hair back as best she could, then stepped outside to begin the day. Silas was already gone, but he had left a note on the table, working the north trap line. "Rest if you need to. Back by noon. S.B." Emma looked around the cabin. Dust covered every surface. Dishes were stacked high in the wash basin. The floor needed sweeping. It reminded her of the home she had cared for in Pennsylvania. Work was familiar. Work kept her steady. So she began. She washed the dishes, each movement sharp with pain. She swept the floor, pushing slowly so her ribs would not scream. She wiped down shelves. She checked the pantry and started bread rising under a cloth. The quiet filled her with something she had not felt in weeks: purpose. By the time Silas returned at noon, snow covered his shoulders and his rifle. He stepped inside and stopped in his tracks. The cabin looked bright again. Warm. Alive. His eyes widened a little. "You did all this?" he asked. "I need to earn my keep," Emma said. He rested his hat on the table. "You already have. Cabin hasn't looked like this since Mrs. Fletcher left. It feels like a home again." Emma felt heat rise to her face. She had forgotten what it felt like to be useful, to be seen. Over the next weeks, their days fell into a gentle rhythm. Emma cooked meals. She cleaned. She helped prepare meat for winter. She learned how to sew torn shirts and mend boots. In return, Silas taught her skills she never expected to learn. He showed her how to use a rifle, how to load it, how to aim, how to steady herself. The first time she hit a wooden post in the yard, Silas nodded with quiet pride. "You should know how to protect yourself," he said. "Out here, it could save your life." Hearing that made something warm unfold inside her chest. No one had ever taught her for her own sake. Every lesson in her past had been to serve someone else. But Silas wanted her stronger, not smaller. Still, the fear inside her had deep roots. One evening while cooking supper, Emma dropped a bowl. The crash echoed through the cabin. Without thinking, she dropped to her knees, arms over her head, waiting for the blow she was sure would follow. Silas froze across the room, his hands going still. He did not step toward her. He kept his voice soft. "Emma," he said, "it is only a bowl, nothing more." Her heart pounded. Shame burned hot in her face. She slowly lowered her arms and looked at him. His eyes held nothing but sadness. Not for the broken dish. For her. "I am sorry," she whispered. "You have nothing to be sorry for," Silas said. "Fear is not a choice." But this is a place where nothing bad happens to you. Not ever." His words wrapped around her like a blanket she had never owned. As the days passed, Emma healed little by little. Her bruises faded. Her strength returned. She wrote in a small journal Silas had given her, recording thoughts she had never dared voice. Some days she still woke shaking, dream fragments still clinging to her. On those mornings, Silas made her coffee and sat with her by the fire without asking questions. His quiet presence was enough. But peace in the mountains never lasted long. One cold afternoon, while Emma practiced with the rifle, silhouettes appeared on the trail. Not one rider. Several. The horses pushed through the snow in a slow line, and Emma's breath caught. Silas stepped in front of her without hesitation. "Keep the gun in your hands," he said. "Stay behind me. Do not shoot unless you must." The riders came closer. Emma felt her stomach twist when she saw who they were. Garrett Ashford rode at the front, a cruel smile on his face. "Well now," Garrett called out. "Looks like you've made yourself comfortable, Mrs. Hartwell." Emma lifted the rifle and held it steady. Her voice did not shake. "You are not welcome here." Quote. Garrett smirked. "You think Brennan can protect you forever? Winter comes hard up here. Accidents happen. Women disappear." Silas stepped forward, his voice steady as stone. "Turn around, Ashford. You are not crossing onto my land." Garrett stared at him, weighing his chances. The cold wind whistled between the trees. After a long, tense moment, he clicked his tongue and pulled his reins. "Fine, but this mountain cannot hide her forever." Silas watched until the last rider disappeared through the trees. Only then did he lower his rifle. "He will not stop," Emma whispered. "He will not win," Silas said. "I will not let him." Life in the mountains was quiet again after that, but the threat hung in the air like a coming storm. Emma felt it every night before she slept, and every morning when she woke. But she also felt something else growing inside her, something she did not dare name yet. Because safety was one thing, kindness was another. But whatever lived in Silas Brennan's eyes when he looked at her, that was something deeper than both. Snow fell in thick white sheets the next morning, covering the valley in silence. Emma stood at the window, watching flakes drift down like soft feathers. It should have felt peaceful. But she couldn't shake the heaviness in her chest. Garrett Ashford's threats echoed in her mind. Men like him never walked away quietly. Tracker barked outside, racing around the barn. Silas appeared a moment later, snow clinging to his coat. Emma opened the door for him, and he stepped inside, shaking off the cold. "Storm's coming," he said. "A hard one. We need to stay alert." Emma nodded. She wanted to believe the mountain was strong enough to keep danger away, but she had learned danger didn't care about strength. It found cracks and walked right through them. Silas noticed her expression. "You're safe here," he said. "I swear it." Emma believed him, maybe more than she believed in anything else. But fear didn't disappear, because someone promised it would. By midday, snow had piled high along the porch. Emma worked beside Silas, bringing in firewood and securing shutters. She slipped once on the icy ground, pain shooting through her ribs. Silas steadied her before she fell. "You all right?" he asked. "I'm fine," Emma said, though her heart beat too fast. He kept his hand on her arm a moment longer before letting go. They ate supper early as the storm howled outside. After the dishes were washed, they sat by the fire. The flames cast warm light across Silas's face. Emma found herself studying him more often now. The curve of his jaw, the quiet strength in his posture, the softness in his eyes when he looked at her. "Emma," Silas said gently, "there's something you should know." She turned toward him. "A marshal came to Timber Creek 2 days ago," he said. "He was asking questions in town, words spreading about Marcus Thorne's death." Emma's breath caught. "They think I had something to do with it?" Quote, "They're looking for answers," Silas said. "Thorne had connections to powerful men. They want someone to blame." Emma felt the old terror rise like a cold tide. "I didn't kill him," she whispered. "I didn't even want to see him again." Quote, "I know," Silas said, "but fear makes men foolish, and greedy men even more so." A knock burst through the storm. Emma froze. Tracker growled low. Silas rose silently, rifle in hand. "Stay behind me." He opened the door a crack. Snow blew inside, swirling around a tall figure. A badge glinted on the man's coat. "Marshal Dawson," Silas said. "Come in." The marshal stepped inside with 2 deputies. He carried the cold of the mountain with him. "Mrs. Hartwell," Dawson said, "I need to ask you questions about your husband." Emma's hands trembled. "I wasn't anywhere near him." "One of Thorne's men claims you threatened revenge," a deputy said. "That is a lie," Emma said, her voice breaking. "I could barely stand when I left him." Silas stepped closer to her. "She was here. Ask Henderson. Ask Margaret. Ask anyone in Timber Creek." Dawson studied them both. Then he searched the cabin and outbuildings. Emma stood in the doorway of her small room while the marshal looked around. She felt exposed, but Silas never left her side. After nearly an hour, Dawson sighed. "Nothing connects her to the killing." Emma sagged with relief. "But the fur companies want a culprit," the marshal added. "They won't stop until they find one. Be ready. This isn't over." When the marshal and his men rode away into the storm, Emma finally let herself breathe again. Silas closed the door and turned to her. "You're not going anywhere," he said. "They won't take you. I won't let them." "Silas, you don't have to protect me. You've already done so much." He looked at her, something raw in his eyes. "Emma, this isn't just about protecting you. Not anymore." She felt something inside her shift, slow and warm. Silas took a step toward her. "You matter to me more than you know." Emma's breath caught. She had been afraid to admit it even to herself, but she felt it too. The safety, the warmth, the connection growing between them. "Silas," she whispered. Before she could say anything more, hoofbeats thundered outside. They rushed to the window. Garrett Ashford rode up through the snow with 2 men behind him. He had returned. Silas's jaw tightened. "Stay inside." Quote, "No," Emma said, stepping beside him. "Not this time. I won't hide from him." They opened the door. Wind whipped through the porch. Garrett smirked. "Heard you had visitors. Thought I'd stop in." "You're trespassing," Silas said. "Relax," Garrett said. "Just checking on the lady. Hard winter up here. Hard to survive alone." "She isn't alone," Silas said. Garrett's eyes flicked between them. "I see." Then he leaned forward in his saddle. "Thorne's dead. Someone will hang for it. Might be her. Might be someone protecting her." Silas raised his rifle. "Leave." Garrett held up his hands, laughing. "Fine. But winter's long, Brennan. Lots can happen. Lots of people disappear." He turned and rode off into the storm. Emma trembled when the riders disappeared. Silas shut the door and faced her. "Emma," he said quietly, "I won't lose you. Not to Ashford. Not to fear. Not to anything." Tears filled her eyes. "I don't want to lose you either." Silas stepped closer and gently cupped her face, his thumb brushing her cheek. "Then stay, not because you have nowhere else to go, but because you want to." Emma's heart thudded. "I want to!" Silas leaned in and kissed her, soft and careful. Emma felt warmth spread through her chest. It was nothing like the harsh world she had escaped. It was gentle, hopeful, real. Weeks passed. The investigation continued, but news came at last. Marcus Thorne's killer had been found. Another woman he had beaten. Another bride he had lied to. She had acted out of fear and survival. Emma was no longer a suspect. She was finally free. Life settled again in the cabin. Safe, quiet, healing. On Christmas Eve, in the small Timber Creek church, Silas Brennan married Emma Hartwell. The congregation cheered for them. Emma stood beside her new husband with tears in her eyes, knowing she had found something she never believed she would have. A home, a future, a love built from gentleness instead of pain. Months later, she stood in the garden behind the cabin, her hand resting on her growing belly. Silas wrapped his arms around her from behind. his touch warm and steady. "Boy or girl?" he asked softly. Emma smiled. "Doesn't matter. They'll be loved." They watched the sun dip behind the mountains, painting the valley in gold. Emma Hartwell had arrived beaten and bruised. Now she stood healed and cherished, all because one mountain man had looked at her and said the words that changed everything. "You're coming with me." And he had meant it not as a command but as a promise he kept.